And welcome to another episode of the Best Three Podcast. I'm Alvin. That's Tori. And on today's episode, we're kicking a little loose. We're going to talk a little bit about one Jack Draper, talk a little bit about Francis, as he has he's playing in the finals of Acapulco tonight, and then we might venture into this Serena Williams speculative return, yada 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 yada. But before we get into that, one, make sure you like and subscribe. That's really important. Do that. Two, how are you doing?
I'm good, Alvin. I'm good. I'm traveling this weekend, and it's good. It's good to get out, and it's good to see some other parts of the country. So it's kind of neat.
Okay, I know you're in the Memphis, Tennessee area. Shouts to the Wamadou family. Shouts to
Oh yes, sir.
Whitehaven Tennis Center.
That's right. That's
Shouts to
right.
the many a weekend spent in Memphis in our both of our collective days.
100%, 100%. It was a whole man, some great times. You know what I mean? And as you say, Tony and the whole Amadou family, and Ketchy may rest in peace, and some other some great memories here, you know what I mean? And as well as many, Kroger St. Jude, you know what I'm saying? And
There you go. Hey, yeah,
back there's, our good buddy, uh, Peter's, Lebedev's old spot, here at
absolutely,
the Rag Club. So bottom line, it's a nice part of the country, and, again, it's always good to get out of your backyard every once in a while.
absolutely, absolutely. So I hit you up or I think it was it today or was it yesterday, and it's like, hey, I want to talk about Jack Draper, because Jack made he's making his comeback. He was out for the better part of last year after Wimbledon. Sorry, after he played French Open, he played Wimbledon, got hurt, came back, played U.S. Open, but now Jack, and then took the rest of the season off. But after a few failed returns, Jack is back, pseudo healthy,
Mhm.
playing in Dubai this week. He did lose to Arthur Rinderknecht in round of 16, but that's not really the point. The point is Jack Draper is one of those guys that when you start to look at the cohorts that we talked about towards the back end of last year, Jack Draper is in that cohort with. He's age 24, so he's there with Yannick and Carlos and Ben and Musetti. And so while he's been, last year, a lot of that oxygen from French Open forward was taken up by Yannick and Carlos, duly deserved.
Sure.
Jack was in a more of a rehabilitation state, but let us not forget he did win a Masters 1000 last year. He
Yep.
did final another one. So I feel like now that he's back, it's good to let's take a look at Jack as the tennis player and kind of
Sure.
where he fits in to this story that is the kind of narrative arc of the top end of men's tennis right
Yeah.
now.
Well, I think it's important. It's his first tournament back, right? I think that's number
Right.
one. You need to point that out. Number two, uh, Jack looks fit. He looks like he's moving better. It looks like he's, if anything, the movement was his highlight to me more so than anything else. Hard to say exactly what I saw, other than it was good to see him back confident, winning a match, and quite frankly, being back healthy. We saw
Yep.
Feast do it a few weeks ago,
Yep.
in Doha, and so it's been really good to see these guys get back healthy again. They bring so much to the game. On the tennis side of things, didn't see as much as I'd like to see. I'm not sure what Jack's best surface is. Rinderknecht played very well, obviously, and got the better of the two. But he's been playing, right? You can always tell the guy that's been playing. You're talking about, the timing differences, nanoseconds, and the confidence you may take from winning a match or two or having played, and then you hit stride. It doesn't always favor the guys that are coming back from an injury, right? So
Right.
while I'm glad that I'm glad that he's there, and back. Clearly, he's going to take some matches to get his swag back and kind of get his stride. But I was happy to see it. What what I'd like to see from Jack coming up as he's defending Indian Wells here pretty soon, and whatever his brings up, clearly he may not be in top form by then. That's a few weeks away, right? So, was it next week or whenever it is?
That's next week. Yeah, next week.
So clearly he may not be back in top form by then. But so this supports will come off. There's Alvin. There's a group of people between, I don't know, 20, shoot, man, 12 really, 12 and about 30, that will eat your lunch if you give them, if you come out half stepping. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think we need to acknowledge that. And Rinderknecht being Arthur being one of them. You know, I think Fee saw that a little bit as well a few weeks ago. I mean, he played some phenomenal ball. just to have a decent finish in Doha. You know what I mean? And so I think what the point I want to make sure that our listening and viewing, followers and what have you, I'm going to say fellow travelers on this on this journey with us, but we're being blessed to see a lot of really high level tennis. We can't sleep on that 30 and in, or even really 30 and out, level of tennis. It doesn't have that name to it. And I know the announcers and commentators, which I'm always a little bit critical of, are quick to point out, well, this guy hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. And we almost always speak to it from top down. Like
Sure.
everything should be, Carlos and Yannick are the litmus test and going down. In reality, it should be viewed from 1,000 up and help you appreciate
Yeah, that's a good point.
how lofty the tennises are playing. So, with all that said, Renderknecht played some great tennis. It was good to see Jack playing well. He dispatched Hallis pretty handily in that match. And I just feel like these to come back and to pick up form like that is pretty difficult. And to do it in that fashion, as I said, Feast did it before a week or two ago. And obviously, I know we're going to talk about Francis in a little bit. All of them are coming back and trying to get on stride. And it takes you, Alvin, I know from my years out there coaching players, it takes you about 6 to 8 weeks worth of matches just to get your match toughness back. So I was quite frankly happy to see him back, happy to see him get a couple of wins. And even the loss he had to Renner Connection wasn't, he just got a little bit outplayed. He just edged him out. He was playing a little sharper, coming forward a little better, and stuck some incredible volleys, I might add. And,
Yep.
and I felt like Jack did everything right that you'd expect for a player coming back. Looked competitive, looked healthy. Didn't see any grimacing, didn't see any things that you thought should have taken more time off. You saw him look fit enough to continue to compete. Trust me, he's only going to get more confidence and get more and more as he gets more and more reps. I'm not worried about Jack Draper at all. Do I think he will be a threat to win Indian Wells this year? No, I do not. Do I
Sure.
think that
Sure. Sure.
he'll
Sure.
be a threat to win Miami? Absolutely not. He hadn't had the time. Do I think he'll be a threat come around, start knocking people off French Open and whatnot? Sure. Do I think he will kind of really start playing better as it swings back toward the U.S. Open? 100%. Because by that time, he's got that time to kind of really get into the meat of the season, of the hard court season over here, and really start to play some ball.
Yeah, let's kind of break that down into two different parts here. One, we'll get to Jack Draper kind of best case scenario high end, right? But let's look at Jack Draper, and I think Artur Fils is a really, really good comp because Artur's about a month ahead of Jack right now when we talk about recovery, not necessarily recovery, but like, okay, I'm back on tour, I'm playing tournaments now. And we saw actually out there playing. So like we saw Artur most recently in Doha, right, final against Carlos Alcaraz, but that was his third event back, and that match was his ninth match, right? So he also had, he got some reps against Felix in Montpellier. He got some reps against De Minaur in Rotterdam, right? You get to play against two top 10 players on your way back. Now you're kind of knocking the haze off here, right? So then you see when he comes into Doha right after that, he starts to get into form, right? He also plays Quentin Hallis in the second round, takes him out.
Yep.
I think the back-to-back matches against Lehechka and then Mincic are the two kind of like, okay, he's looking good. Beat them both in straight sets.
Right.
And then Carlos is a whole different test. He's not beating Carlos probably on his best day anyway, so I can even throw that one out. But I will say, you go 4 straight weeks, and I guess that's probably 3 weeks in a row there of competitive tennis. We're getting to that 10 match threshold. Now we're halfway through your 6 to 8 weeks, and it's probably more like less the weeks and more the match total, right? You probably need about 15 matches under your belt
I think
to
so.
about that.
I would say 20 and you're golden. But to your point, and again, and there's ups and downs in that 20, right? The point is give
And
you.
how long does it take you to get those 20 matches too?
That's
That's
what I'm saying, because
that's the kicker.
It could take you 3 tournaments. It could take you, it could take you
20 tournaments,
right? It could take you 20 tournaments, right? And so, that's the only problem with the tour is it's not kind to the injured. The pack continues to move on. Tennis does not wait for you. You know what I mean? And so even with things like protected rankings and such, it's still not going to cryogenically, Han Solo freeze you in that spot, and
Right.
then you come back and everything's gravy when you come back. You've got some tough sledding to go when you come back, and so it really is kind of a double injury in a sense because you physically are hurt, and then your ranking now takes all the hits, that come back from it. So while they help you get back into some of those tournaments, nothing can take away, where you were and the tennis you were playing at that time. And a quick shout out to Holger Rune, who's going through the same thing right now, perhaps a longer, sabbatical right now with his
Yeah.
injury. And who was playing at a really high level and was just starting to claw inside that, further inside that top 10. And so to him, even more so, you know what I mean? Where he's going to be, was Jack 5, I think, when he went out?
Jack got up to 4.
Four,
He was
right.
like 4 and 5 somewhere in there. I'm not
Absolutely.
sure where he was when he
100%.
stepped
And
away
I,
from
and I
tour, but
think
pretty
Holger
close.
was closer, right? Like
Holger was 10, 11, 12,
Was
somewhere
it over
around
10?
there.
Okay, there you go. So
Yeah.
I thought he was a little higher. But my point being, it's a very lofty perch to descend from with that injury. And, while on paper he's still that seed and that high, he is clearly not, he's not at the form that he was at that time. You know what I mean? So again, good to see him back, man, because that's just one more good player to watch and one more upset brewing / one more player to upset and contend with the rest of the top 10.
Right, exactly. So maybe with that in mind, like we mentioned, Jack got up to 4 or 5, and like last year, Jack had kind of his breakout year, and I'll even go back a little bit to like 2024, obviously semifinal of the U.S. Open, and then rolled that into 2025, like round of 16 Australian Open. That's great, but then he final Doha, caught a burner, won Indian Wells, beat Carlos along the way. He also final Madrid in that fantastic match that he lost against Casper Ruud, but started to really won a 1,000 on hard,
Right.
final to 1,000. It's Madrid, whatever, but final to 1,000 on clay. And now you're like, okay, comes into plays Rome quarterfinals and then round of 16 at Roland Garros itself. So
Yeah.
we've got now between U.S. Open of 24 and Roland Garros of 25, Jack put together a really solid body of work before
Right.
his body kind of broke down on him.
Yep.
So I think we've seen kind of like that top end of what Jack Draper could be, and he has I guess let's go back to 2024, right? He's 2-2 against Carlos since 24,
Yep.
0-1 against Sinner since 24. I think it's quite important to notice that he's also 2-0 against Musetti and 1-0 against Ben. So like these are players in his cohort.
Yep.
Jack has shown to be, maybe he's not quite there with Carlos and Yannick yet. Yannick maybe a little bit to be seen, but he's proven it against the rest of them.
Yep.
We saw what he could do at his high end.
Yep.
But I personally, when I watch him as a lefty and a big guy,
Yeah.
he doesn't play lefty or big guy tennis.
No.
So I have a tough time figuring out what to do with Jack Draper as I interpret him as a tennis player.
Jack, and he's one of those classic lefty who plays lefty, but he's right-handed types. You know what I mean? You're never going to see, like Nadal, you're never going to see big serves from a guy who's probably a natural right-hander with his left-hand side. He's always going to have a backhand preference, right? And the backhand is going to be his weapon. The only thing I'll say is this, Alvin, and again, I think while I hate some of our commentators for being overly critical, I try not to be overly critical myself. You can be underwhelmed with Jack if you're looking for that. At the same time, I find there's two things I want to speak to on Jack Draper. Number one, he's doing a lot of this without said weapons. All those records you talked about, 2-0 this, 1-1 this and that, without said weapons. So imagine if those two or three things were to be achieved, put in the bag, so to speak. He hyperspaces and takes off warp speed, and he's all of a sudden he's that much stronger of a player. Number two, he's not finished. He's 24 years old.
Yep.
So the young man is still young and has a lot of time yet to still get out there and get after it. So especially with that, to me, his serve could always get a little bit bigger. You know what I mean? His returns are always really good. He's got a great backhand. He can change direction whenever he wants. Pretty good feel. I would say very underrated hands around the net, like most Brits. He loves coming forward and has good hands coming with the volleys. If his serve could get him one more freebie a game, and while that's significant, one more freebie a game helps him hold. He's got good returns. And I think when he was beating those players like that, he has that ability. I know you mentioned Ben in that comparison as far as the comps versus those other top 10 players. Ben has started to do some of those same things, which is why Ben's moving up. I feel moving up the rungs in the ladder, so to speak, because he is holding serve easier more often. Very few break chances being he's defending against because of that very same thing, locking in on that first serve. It's a big deal, and I feel like that's an area of growth for him if he were continue to move forward. But I also want to say I feel Jack's biggest, you know, I'm going to say his biggest attribute is as one of the sayings I hear all the time, and it's not always true with most people, but it's true in his case. You can't. You can measure the size of the dog in the fight, but you can't measure the size of fighting the dog. And I think Jack Draper is one of those players. He has, there is no quit in that young man. He's got all kind of grit, and it's shown by his trek to get where he's at. So I really feel like we're going to see some things from him, strictly out of determination and just want and desire alone. And should he couple that with uh, 10 more miles per hour on a serve and a few more spots he can hit on the serve targets, Jack Draper will return back to top 10 status with interest and potentially top five again. The only thing holding him back is other players who are doing the same thing, right?
Sure,
That
sure.
may elbow him out in the process. That's the only thing that's going to stand in his way is other players with similar grit who have maybe just a bit more, of a weapon here or there that can edge him out on given surfaces.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's I think the Ben Shelton comp is I think it's not necessarily comp, but like when you look at them through similar lenses because they're both, bigger, stronger guys, but right about the same age, both left-handed, obviously. I think what you've seen in their game styles, they there's a lot on paper that looks similar, but the way they manage themselves on the tennis court is very, very different, right? I
Right.
think Jack having a backhand that is so solid,
Right.
almost him being left-handed is his advantage because the backhand is so solid. Like he doesn't really create advantages
Right.
from being left-handed.
Right.
He kind of erases his deficiencies because he is left-handed. If
Sure.
Jack Draper were right-handed, it's a whole different story.
Right.
But if
For
he's
sure.
playing against a right-handed player, that deuce court diagonal rally, he can stay there all day, and he
Yep.
can also go line. And then
Yep.
when he goes line to the ad court, and you're bringing a backhand back cross court, now he likes to get on that back foot and send it a little bit open.
Yep.
He's got time and he's got space over there in that deuce side now to
Yep.
then kind of work. So I think it's one of those like little nuances where Ben is had to over the last 3 years or so, and he's done a really good job of it, built
Right.
up the backhand
Right.
so that he can at least
Right.
get to neutral in those deuce court rallies where he
Yep.
he does a really, really good job of like, playing a little more strongly on the ad court
And
ad court
and
side.
and
But then
what
also has bigger serve.
just a little bit. And what
Just a
what
little bit.
Jack's gonna have to do, as much as Ben has shored up his backhand side and made smart decisions with the slice, Jack now has to do off the serve and first strike. He
Yeah.
simply has to get more freebies. He has to hold serve easier with a little more help from that serve and with a lot more. I'm going to use the term. Uh, people misunderstand the big serve. It isn't so much the MPH, while that's significant. If you're in the guys' strike zones, these guys can all return very, very well. It's how much trouble they have with your serve. How much can you change it up? How different is it? You know, do you have a 50-mile-an-hour range between first and second that you can throw in there that doesn't get teed off on, right? Which is a lot that's a lot of MPH to handle. Does your slice tee for the lefty carve away? You know what I mean, on the deuce, which makes it extremely difficult. And does your flat out wide go to the flowers and the sponsorship?
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
at that point, everybody wants to start off the point level team and as a returner. And if you know you're not even sniffing the return when it goes to that side, you're already down. And so those are little things there. I think Ben's done a good job of bringing the hammer and serving well. I think if Jack could get that serve accuracy down, get that flat out wide, really, really penetrate that out wide, the left service box sideline, not the baseline, and just really get you out wide, get you a foot or two past the alley, and be able to carve you up to the tee. Same thing on the outside, which he's shown in the past. He's got to be able to, in my opinion, like Ben has, he's got to make his serve and +1 really step up a notch or two so that he is taken very, very seriously in matches. And then breakers, 3 sets, obviously 5-set matches don't have the same wear and tear. The one thing I noticed from a couple of matches is how fast he is for a big guy. The unfortunate side was he was on the run a lot. The
All
good
right.
side is he's fast enough to handle it. But again, do you really want your 6'4" big server running that much? Gassing the legs, not really playing a lot from strength. In my opinion, you probably don't. You know what I mean? There was a time when Pete Sampras would let those balls go because
Yeah.
he
Right. Right.
knew he knew. You know what? I'll give you that one because I've got a server that might just bring it back to 30 all. I'm not too worried about it. I mean,
Yeah.
there were times when Pete would just he let you have that ball, and it wasn't necessarily that the shot was that great. It was that Pete said, I'm gonna take a little. I don't mind letting that one go. I'm too many of those, and I'll lose my legs and my strength, which is
Sure.
really what I'm
Yeah.
here for. And so I just think there's a lot of ways to play this game. There's a lot of different ways to make this work. And I just feel like if Jack were to take care of that part of it, he has the other parts down pat. It's just
Right.
now to me, can he really establish the weapon or make the weapon he has that much bigger to be relevant for the top 10 for him to regain where he was before.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to put it. There are a lot of ways to win tennis matches, a lot of ways to play this game. And start talking about like the serve differences between a Jack Draper and a Pete Sampras. Maybe not the best comparison because
Sure.
Pete's one of the best servers of all time, but Pete was 6'1",
Yeah.
like not as tall as you would think, with one of the best servers of all time.
Mm.
And Jack is 6'4", and I think that's kind of the push pull with Draper, and it has been for the last 3 years or so. Like, he's a big dude who doesn't necessarily play that big,
Right.
but we're not all cut to do the same thing,
Right.
right?
Or
So
run the same way or construct points the same way. But again, what you don't do there, you have to make up for somewhere else. So and that's what remains to be seen. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Again,
yeah,
Jack Draper will be fine. He's a heck of a competitor. I love his grit on the court. I want to see. I'd love to see him do well. As much as he puts into it. We'll see.
yeah. Let's before we change gears to Francis, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk
Yep.
a little bit about him. And we're back. Okay,
Yep.
so Francis is playing in the finals of the Acapulco 500 right now.
Yep.
You mentioned, we've talked about Francis a good bit, right? And
Yeah.
I think at the end of last year, probably right before, like probably in December, I think we were having this conversation about Francis after he went on Andy's pod talking about how he's renewed his commitment effectively
Yep.
to being a high level professional tennis player. And
Yep.
I got a little salty.
Mhm.
But I've since calmed down. It's been 2 months now. I'm back. I'm better.
Yep.
But you've been watching Francis this week in Acapulco. I haven't been paying as much attention. What have you seen? He's played probably 13 matches this year since the beginning of the year. What have you seen in the last, let's call it, 2 months with Francis, this week included, that makes you feel hopeful? Hopeful. Young man is 28 years old. He ain't 35, right? So he does have time left.
Right.
So with that being the case, what are we looking at right now?
It's a great question, and I want to qualify the. He's not 28. He ain't 35. He ain't 25. Right.
Right, right, right.
So you're exactly right. What I feel makes me hopeful for Francis is hopeful that he stays relevant throughout the year. What is relevant? Well, relevant to me is top 20 with the chance to beat a top 10 50% of the time. That's
Okay.
what I would call relevant for top. Because to me, if you're not beating top 10, but 10% of the time, you might even call that a lucky win or a top player taking that week off. We don't
Right.
want to call it out. We know they do it, but whether they do it on purpose or they feel the guy's playing well enough to let them have it that day or not, that's above my pay grade. However, if you're doing it 50% of the time, you're threatening, right? That includes center, Alcaraz, and so on and so on. So that includes the top four that you'll play. Let's face it, numerically speaking, you might face them earlier than you'd like in certain tournaments. But 50% to me makes you relevant. What makes me hopeful is that Tiafoe looks like his old self. The
Okay.
self that was scrappy, good touch around the net, some clutch volleys. He makes the difficult seem easy.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, sometimes he makes the easy look difficult. Take a long rally,
Let's
look like the match is hanging in the balance. You know what I mean? And all because he had one game with 3 second serves. His first serve isn't huge. We know that. We're just talking about Jack. I think Francis is leader of the. I got all. He comes if he's in spades. He's got three good face cards in every suit. No joker, no,
right, right.
man, he's got that all around hand. He ain't got nothing to kill you with, but buddy, he's going to surprise you with a good card on your card. He's going to pull at least six cards from your hand just because he knows how to play his hand. That's what Francis brings to the table now. And he might be sitting on a two or just in case, old school spades. I say it to say that's what Francis looks like to me. He's back to moving well. He's hitting his forehand clean like he always could. There were some times last year, Alvin, the French Open in particular, Francis looked tired. Whether he
Okay.
was physically spent or not, he looked worse. He looked like he was done. Looked like it was too much of an effort to get to where he was trying to get to. And this is first round, second round. What I have been enthused about is Francis looks like he's competing again. He
Okay.
looks like he's enjoying it again. He always is competitive. We don't ever have to talk about that. That brother is one of the fiercest competitors we've seen on the melanin side of things. Dare I say, right? Dare I say, since Ash or I would even say, no disrespect to Malavai and James, to all these brothers who have played before, Francis brought more grit than they did to just about every match. Didn't have the final Wimby and doesn't have a slam to his credit, but don't sleep. Francis is all day competitor. He didn't look like it, in my opinion, for 6 months or so of last year. Overplayed, dinged up, I'm sure all the above. I'm just telling you what my coach's eye tells me, and I know what I saw, and I know how good the brother is. So to see him not look like he had that fire in it, look like he was enduring it a little bit. He was getting through. He wasn't competing. And there were some moments in this match, in these matches at Acapulco against Binoc and against uh, Bellucci that I felt like, wow, Francis is enjoying it again. He's enjoying the battle again, and he has the stamina and fitness and the confidence now to enjoy it. And that's what I saw. So I'm hoping that continues. You said it was ninth or whatever match. I think the more we keep seeing of that Francis, I never get tired of watching. That Francis is always a threat. And again, now that he's starting to put some confidence behind him, Caboli will be a real good test for him tonight. But I really feel like if Francis is in the right mindset and has everything working for him, he is. It's a very good thing to see, and I would give him the edge with anybody outside of top 10 for that very reason, because he has that kind of drive and he enjoys that level of competition. So
Right.
look forward to only more and more from him if he can continue to stay right where he's at, if not improve where he's at, but have that kind of that joy of competition that he's always kind of fed off of. You know what I mean? And I feel like for a good chunk that was missing.
Okay. So there's kind of two things here. Well, one, let's say that is a good thing.
Sure.
I'm things are better when Francis is performing at a high Francis level, and
Yes.
I'm very peculiar with my words here when I say
Sure.
high Francis level,
Yeah.
because my expectation of a player is only to fulfill their own potential.
Yep.
right? To be the best player they can be. We
Yep.
all have some type of ceiling as tennis players, right?
For
And
sure.
it is your job as a professional tennis player to bump up against that ceiling as frequently as possible and
Right.
probably sustain the top, 10% of your abilities
Right.
throughout your career. That is a career of 10 years, 12 years on tour,
Right.
maximizing your earning window. That is
Yep.
the job of a professional tennis
Yep.
player, right? Okay,
Agreed.
one. Francis in 2023, I think it was 2023 was his best year. He got to 10 in the world. That might have been
Yep.
right before the US, probably right before the US Open, because in 2022 he semifinaled the US Open, lost to
Semi.
Alcaraz in 5 sets,
Yep.
beating it
Remember?
all on the
Yep.
way there. And then
Yep.
I assume those points he lost to Ben, I think in the quarterfinals the next
Yep.
year. So I assume the points rolled off right before. Whatever. Okay. So that is important
Yep.
because now my question kind of shifts to, okay, Francis is back to playing the best version of Francis Tiafoe tennis.
Right. What is
But
that?
then what is that? What is
Right.
that
Exactly.
bubble up to? And you start, yeah, you know me. You see where I'm going with this.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I started looking back. It's like, okay, well, when you mention records against top tens, you got to go all the way back to last year. 2024. That's the last time Francis beat someone who was ranked in the top 10, and he beat Dimitrov, and naturally Dimitrov retired in that match,
Mhm.
right? In a Grand Slam, because that's what
Still,
Grigor
still a
does.
goal, though.
It's looking good, but that was enough for
Yeah.
him. And then I guess he did pick up a win against Medvedev in the Laver Cup that same year. Maddie
Yeah.
was top 10. That's Laver Cup. Do with that what you will.
Yep.
But you have to go all the way back to 2022 when he beat
Mhm.
Nadal at the U.S. Open to say, okay, that's a true top 10 win. Um, so about your previous point, like picking off some, you want to go. I think you said 50% against the top 10.
50%.
Like if you're going 50% against the top 10, that means you're meeting them often enough,
To get to 'em.
which someone like Francis, who's
Right.
usually on the back end of being seeded at a Grand Slam, he's not going to play anyone in the top 10 until he gets to the quarterfinals anyway.
Right.
So you got to get there, one. And then if you are 50-50 in quarterfinals, then that means you're making some semis and you're probably a top 10 player yourself. To get into the top 10, you must be top 10. I mean,
That's
to be top 10, you must beat the top 10,
to
which
my
is
point. There's more tournaments besides the slams, and obviously the what I call the mini slams, like your Sunshine Double, and others that are, and obviously in new other 1000s. What I'm saying is 50% is what you should aspire to.
sure.
Now, I think we both understand if he faced 25 of them over the 40 some odd weeks of the tour is, and he came up, and he came up on, of the 25, he came up with 10 to 12 wins. That would still be a
Poof.
solid effort, right? You get what I'm trying to say. So whether it's 50%, whether it's 45, whether it's 40, we're going to be okay with that. What you don't want is the 10%, or as you just mentioned, and it's been a while since we've heard of Francis being here. It's been a while since, and that's all I'm saying. Now, this is all to say Francis is playing like a player capable of doing that, the player he was when he was doing that on the regular, heck, when he was top 10, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like he looks like that kind of player again. I love seeing him look like that because it tells me he's ready to go. Tells me that the engine's recharged. The engine's has been fine tuned and had a nice little added some zip. He's got some premium gasoline in there. He's firing on all six cylinders. I love seeing it. Notice I didn't say eight cylinders. He don't have an eight-cylinder game. He's got a six-cylinder game.
Fair.
However, the brother is doing great, and I'm happy to see him look like he's enjoying the competition again, especially where he's at. I don't think Francis is one of those players that'll play till he's 35. You know what I mean? I see him moving into some other ventures. I don't see him. He's not the kind of player that likes to, if he's not winning, it's not as enjoyable to him. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I could see him being a type of player that kind of that would tap out after if he fell outside the top 25 or top 30. He's in it to win it, right? And so those kind of players, while I respect him, I could see him being one of those types. I could see him tapping out within 6 months to a year if things weren't turned around. And I think that's why he has this renewed interest in the game. He has this new renewed in a sense. Mindset, to get where he's trying to go. And that's why I'm applauding his success is because he looks to be he looks to be pointing in the right direction or trending in the right direction.
Yeah, and let's not pretend like he's like 100 in the world or something. He's still right around 30. Like that is, you know, that's baseline Francis, and I think that's
Yep.
why, like, outside of just being, a Black American tennis player, and we are both Black Americans in who play tennis in America, like it. Besides that, it's like he has the ability to get to 10, and when he is relevant, things are better for our game, and
Uh,
he has shown the ability to be relevant. Like Francis Tiafoe, quarterfinals of the U.S. Open is a whole vibe. It switches from tennis to now it is a thing in the kind of social ether. People are attracted to him, and
yep.
he is built for those kind of moments.
Yep.
But like, if we're losing third round of Del Rey, like, that's not cool either. Like, we kind of want it all. We kind of want it all, and I think it's if Francis has decided that he also is back to wanting it all.
Yep.
Um, I think he feels that kind of competitive fervor with his cohort as well. Like, his cohort is American cohort with
Yep.
Taylor and with
Yep.
and with Tommy. Like,
Yep.
those are his guys,
Of
and
course.
like he
Yeah.
he sees Taylor's made a final of a Grand Slam, and he's like, I can beat that guy.
Yep.
And Tommy got to top 10. He's like, I can beat that guy.
Yep.
And they
Yep.
all came up together, training at USTA together, towards the back
Yep.
end. So it's like we just, yeah. If you're with it, I'm with it. That's to you, Francis. If you're with it, then I'm with it. Let's go. Let's let us go.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah. But just kind of coincidentally, we're gonna talk a little bit more about Black tennis things. But this also supersedes tennis. Serena Williams.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna try not to get too speculative here, right? She
Sure.
has come out. She has been in the anti-doping protocol. Yada yada yada. She is now officially an unretired tennis player. Right. That is one. Serena Williams, greatest of all time, according to this podcast, is now an unretired tennis player. That's one. Two. Serena Williams is also 44 years old. Let's okay. Make sure we caveat that. Serena Williams has not been a competitive tennis player since 2022, 23, something like that. That's not the most important part. Let us speculate that while we don't know exactly what Serena is doing this for, like
Yep.
going through coming out of officially coming out of retirement, we don't know why she's doing it. We can make some assumptions. She
Yep.
ain't doing it to play the mixed doubles slam at U.S. Open or anything.
Yeah. She might.
She, jeez, the Arthur Ashe Stadium ain't big enough.
True. I agree. I agree, but it would pack some seats, would it not?
That woman is a force, and Ashe ain't big enough. Let's put it that way.
I agree, but I would be there. I'll tell you that right now. You know what I mean?
I'll probably still watch it on TV. But let us say that Serena Williams is coming back to playing tennis,
Yep.
professional tennis. When we start to think about, okay, let's have a good time with this. What could Serena Williams be as a tennis player in 2026 and beyond? And I'm gonna give you a minute to think about it. I see you rolling your eyes. If you're not watching this on YouTube, Tori makes some faces sometimes as I drag him into these pits with me. But I got kind of caught up in okay, if I were breaking this problem down, how would I break this problem down? Okay, I look at her sister Venus as a proxy, right? Venus has come back kind of and is playing tennis. Venus is an older player who is competing on the Pro Tour right now, right?
Yep.
And then I look at Naomi Osaka as a proxy, former Grand Slam champion who had a kid, went away, came back officially in 2024, I think it was, and is now back to the top 20 now in 2026.
Right.
So as I look at these proxies, I don't like what I see.
No.
I don't like what I see at all. I don't like what I see outside of how awesome it would be for Serena to come back. And then I also look at her record against the women who are currently in the top 10. And the number itself it doesn't really matter. She's 15-7 against the ladies who are currently in the top 10 in her career, but the vast majority of those are against Svitolina and Bencic, and she hasn't played any of them since 2022. So
it's 2022.
Right. That part. So before I bore you and the listeners with statistics, and I'm giving you some time to to indulge me in this conversation.
I don't need any time. I don't need any
Okay.
time. I have one question. It's very short. Why? And I don't understand the why. It is not for me to question Serena. The woman can do whatever she wants. She's the greatest of all time. She could come back. She could come back to play one match. She could come back to play a whole year. I could care less. She's proven everything, including that she can do whatever she wants.
Right.
I will say this
Right.
as one of her bigger fans and what she's meant to the game. I remember her last US Open, and I was glad she was going to go on the way out. You could tell Mother Time, she's so good that she's able to change the gender of time itself. Mother Time had caught up to her. She was still in the big ball. She just couldn't track down that same ball. Serena blessed us with darn near 20 years of great
Yeah.
tennis.
God
Great
bless.
tennis. And I mean great tennis. She blessed us with more than 20 years, but as far as great tennis, 20 years. She owes the game nothing.
God, she
Owes
was playing in
the
'98.
game, the game owes her, right? As far as it's concerned, butts in the seats, marketing, whole waves of tennis players have started, white and black, international, have come into the game due to one Serena Williams. And hats off to obviously her sister as well. My my coach's eye says, I know she's on the GLP-1s and whatnot. She looks good in the commercials. She looks great. She's always looked great to me. She just is an older version. And 3 years ago, I don't know if she could handle some of the things. I'm not I'm not so sure that the 3 years plus version will be that much faster and fitter. The other thing I want to add to this, Alvin, is, and again, we don't know. There's a difference between playing a match and there's a difference between playing a tournament. And there's a difference in playing a tournament and playing the tour.
Right. 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 Right.
Want to make sure you mentioned Venus as a proxy, which I think is as close as a proxy as you're going to get for a lot of.
I had to use a few different proxies to.
Right.
That's
Right.
because Serena is a
You can have
supernova.
18 composites as a proxy for screen and still not really catch up to the total. But let's use her as the closest proxy due to age. Venus,
Right.
what how was he 45 last year? 46? What was she when she played?
Venus is 45 right now.
45.
She turned
It was
45 last year.
44 last year, I thought, right? So they're
45 last year.
4 years apart.
Yeah.
Or year and a half apart, whatever. Venus looked great in that match and
Against
then
Peyton.
didn't look great in the next match when she played in DC. And then the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
the Open, she looked like she was right there. But I don't know if she was going to look like she was right there for 4 more matches. You know what I mean? Let alone 5, let alone 6. And can she hit with? I think everybody saw there that Venus can still hit with the best of them. You know what I mean? I also feel like her sister, Venus had nothing to prove. 7 slams. I don't know how many doubles championships she had with her sister. There is nothing, literally nothing to prove. Hall of Fame career, period. Without any extra comebacks, maybe it was just a personal thing. Maybe it was just something to prove to herself. I don't know. All I can say is that it wasn't necessary for me. She's not diminished in any way for me, but she didn't also need to go out there and prove that to me either. Maybe it's something for herself. And that extra ding, did it prove that a 44 or 45-year-old woman can still play at the highest level? Great. Then mission accomplished, right? And so to me, especially having been done by her sister, what would Serena do? Unless it's some sort of sibling bet, I could do it too. Maybe. I just don't feel. I don't see the relevance in it. I don't see, I don't see it being something. I'll put it this way: I don't see the qualitative relevance for for the tennis world at large aside from it being a great thing for fans to come back and get one more look at her in person and see her greatness one last time. I just maybe for her daughter, or I think she has two kids now, two
Two
girls.
kids now, yeah.
To see it, maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but if it's something that personal and something that sentimental, hey, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? But I just feel like the game has moved on. She left it in great hands. She kept it up. She literally kept it where it was at its very high level, and as far as I'm concerned, darn near single handedly for so many years that I feel like I personally want to you know I know the game has moved on physically, right, and you just can't turn back that clock. I just want to make sure that everyone appreciates that she not only was she still is the best of all time, and it doesn't she doesn't need to prove anything more to anyone, and so hence why I question the farewell tour, so to speak, if that's what we're hinting at, for one more go round of the merry-go-round. I just feel like if you moved on, go ahead. Uh, Stay gone. Go to the booth. You know what I mean? Coach a player. You know what I mean? There's other ways to return to
She ain't
tennis,
doing any of that. She ain't doing any of that.
and that's fair. And again, she can do anything she wants. All I'm saying is,
Okay. There's a couple things here, and again, it's all
not.
speculative. we are in the space of speculation right now because she has not said anything official. She's doing things, she's ducking questions. So until she says this is what I'm doing, then we have the space to talk about this however we want to talk about it. So Serena says now I can talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it. There's a couple things here that I have to.
I'm gonna call him Clay.
Exactly. I knew you'd get that one. That was off the bat, boy. That was easy. So the Venus thing, right? So we go back. We also often talk about that DC run, right?
Yeah.
Where she I think I don't remember, she won doubles with what's the lady from DC? Where's the chain? She played.
Oh, really?
Yes, she was. I think she was playing with Haley, right,
Yeah.
in DC. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She did well in doubles, and not that Haley doesn't matter. I'm just saying the doubles doesn't matter. For this conversation, the run she had was 2 singles matches, right?
Yeah.
She beat Peyton Stearns in a match where Peyton Stearns looked like a deer in headlights for a lot of good reason. She was she freaked out, right?
Yeah.
And then lost right after that. But I think we have to kind of look at this at the macro, in the last, I don't know, 4 years, Venus is 4-20. She's 4-20 in one of those matches with the Peyton Stearns match, right? Besides that, she hadn't won a match since 2023, right? So, when I watched that match, because I think I was back home by then, I wasn't there for that match. I was in DC, but I wasn't there for that match. She looked just a hair slow. She can still hit. Venus can still hit. Venus will be able to hit all of her life. When players have it, they will be able to do that all the time. Case in point, I hit next to our friend Angie Haynes just yesterday.
Yeah.
Just yesterday at Lifetime, and my buddy was like, my buddy was like, "Gosh, she's good." I was like, "Yeah, she was top 70 in the world."
In the corner. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, head doesn't move. It's always gonna look good. It's always gonna look good. But there are very, very fine margins in winning tennis matches. I remember some years ago, I went to I'll kind of get back to this. I went to a AAA baseball game. No, double A baseball game. It was a double A baseball game in Gwinnett County. And there were just some you're at a baseball game, and you and I, if we grew up watching baseball, you watch it on television, you're watching professional baseball, ball gets hit down here, guy fields it, throws it to first, it's right on target. There were just kind of rhythms of the thing happens, you know what's going to happen, 6-4-3 double play, blah, 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 pop up, cleanly fields it, tags it, things just kind of happen automatically. But you almost take for granted that you're watching the best players in the world. Because when you go watch a level underneath, 2 levels underneath, I'm seeing off-target throws to first. I'm like, what the hell is that? What is that? And it's oh, you just took for granted how good
those others
the best players in the world are to make that look like it's normal. And
Yep.
so I bring this back to the Venus scenario, in which when she's hitting, she's always going to look fine. But when you start playing tennis matches against other professional tennis players, she looked a little bit off, like a little bit off. And that little bit off is enough to not win tennis matches on the freaking WTA tour. Venus is actually ranked like 500 something in the world. Like, it ain't like she's getting into these tournaments because she's still a high level tour player, right? So let's not take the age thing off the table. It is firmly on the table.
It might be the only thing on the table as far as I'm
It's
concerned.
the thing. It is the thing.
It
right?
is the lazy Susan of things. Everything goes around it. You know, everything
Exactly.
goes around it, and because of it.
And so when we bring Serena into this scenario, like, yeah, we can wistfully dream that we'll see Serena competing for whatever. And when she made the third round, I think it was, of the U.S. Open in 2022, and she took out, she beat the number 2 seed, I think, in the first or second round. And she looked like Peyton Stearns. She looked freaked out. Oh God, Swedish girl, last name starts with a K. It won't come to me right now. But you could also tell that Serena was just a little bit off. Like, she hadn't played a lot. She was playing herself into form in the tournament, but when she got against Tomljanovic in the third round, Isla was like, "I'm not losing this match. You're gonna have to go through me. I'm an informed professional tennis player who's not gonna get freaked out about this. What's going on right now?" And then Serena's lack of tennis reps kind of showed, and okay, so I remember Serena saying something like, this is my farewell, and that's great. But like, I felt like I was right there. Like, maybe if I actually if I practiced and played some tournaments and got ready, maybe I could still go do this. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but that was also 4 years ago.
Years ago, buddy. I'm hoping
So
that the medical company, Roe, I think it's called, has put up some insane amount of money or something to kind of tell that whole story and talk about getting people's lives back, quote unquote. And there's just this whole big media campaign. I'm hoping that's what this is all coming down to, not for the money, but for women everywhere, you know, and kind of get your life back, so to speak, as part of this whole new big campaign. If so, I love the message, love all of it. I don't know that I need to see it in a pro tournament, especially one like a Grand Slam, to prove said thing. And again, can Serena do whatever the heck she wants to do? 1000%. She definitely don't need my approval for anything. For either way, what I'm mentioning is, as one of her fans that appreciates her legacy, there's just no reason to add to it or detract from it. And whatever she's gonna do, hey, I support. But you know, that Serena has retired, as far as I'm concerned. The person that she is now at 44 years of age, and mother of 2, and so on and so forth, you know, she can do whatever she wants that she deems good for her family and for the game. And I'll leave it at that. I feel like a lot of these players, when they come back, or don't realize how much harder. We just talk about people like coming back, like uh, Jack Draper, and how hard it's going to be for Holger Rune, you know, and other players like that who were top 10, you know, to come back after less than a year, 6 months gone out, 6 months, 7, 8 months. Holger may be gone for almost a full year, right? Dimitrov still trying to make a comeback after his situation in Wimbledon last year. You know,
hell, Naomi was out for, she was out for about a year, and it's taken her 18 months to get back to her best tennis, and her best tennis is like just inside the top 20.
Winning U.S. Open again.
Right.
And to my point, I'm just saying, let's not kid ourselves with any illusions of grandeur here. You know, Charlie Murphy. You know, let's not any illusions of any grandeur of where that's going to head. That's just the physicality of the game, Alvin. It had nothing to do with her. If anybody could do it, it's her.
Right.
The physicality of the game. She didn't look like herself in 2022. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? When Naomi beat her, what was it, 2020, I want to say, or 2020?
Naomi beat her in 2018. It was 2018.
The
U.S. Open 28. Oh, no, the semifinal. That was 2021 Australian Open. I think she lost to Naomi.
I mean, when she, I had to be the one where she bowed to her and all that. That had to be either 2018 or 2019.
That was 2018. Yeah,
2018. That
US
was
Open.
to me the sign of the end. Alvin, is 2026, brother. You know what I mean?
I know what time it is. I'm sitting in a chair.
Man, I mean, that's 8 years ago. So I'm just saying, it's, to me, I wish her all the best. She is and will always be the queen. But let's not let's let this be a media stunt. Let's let this be a big program for wellness and health and wellness everywhere. and I hope that's what it is. And even better. But
And
and
yeah, I mean,
on that note, we can move on.
okay, and we will find out, right? That's the thing. I was gonna have us
Sure.
have this conversation about like what would she look like against the top
Yeah.
10. Whatever. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
I'll-
We'll move on. Let us not forget that her husband is a very heavy investor in that GLP-1 company, Rim.
Hey,
So like let's not pretend like
thank you.
this ain't slick talk. One last
Yeah.
thing I want to talk about
Sure.
before we get out of here. My adventures in tennis over the last week or so. I saw Eric Jackson today. We
No,
exchanged
no. How's
numbers.
DJ doing?
Yeah, he's teaching at my local tennis center, so
Yeah.
this is exciting. I'm gonna drag him back out there, get him hitting again. Um, I was playing a week ago, and
Okay.
right after I saw you. So for the listeners who aren't aware, Tori and I live, in the same general area. Atlanta is a big place,
Yeah.
but we live actually like almost an hour from each other. So we
Yeah.
don't see each other in person that often,
Yeah.
generally outside of the slams. But we did get together a couple weeks ago, talk a little talk, and we got to talking about rackets.
Yep.
I feel like we met up to give me for me to give you something transactional, and then we end
Sure.
up spending 15-20 minutes in the parking lot because that's what we do when we see each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're always talking, and
I'm
we were
talking
talking
about
rackets.
Yep.
We were talking strings, right? We were talking
Strings.
strings, and I am my setup is Pure Aero 100, the 2023 version, and I usually use RPM Blast 16, 50 in the mains, 48 in the crosses. That's my weapon of choice, and I was trying to, we were talking about like if I should maybe blend something else in the crosses. We talked about some multi-filaments, but I burned those in like 30 minutes. Like it was a joke. But when I broke all my strings as I was hitting with my good friend Logan, um, Logan handed me a racket. Logan plays with a Pure Drive Pro.
Yep.
Stiff. That bad boy's stiff.
Yep.
Much stiffer than my frame.
Yep.
I'm hitting with it. I had hit the ball that well. I was like, what have I been missing? And it was strung up a little too tight too. It's like
Sure.
I checked the specs, the hardcore tag on it. It was like at 53. I'm like,
Right.
you're still stringing 53. I'm like, if I got this stiff racket with a poly, even high 40s. I know you're pushing me to go low 40s, but even high 40s, I feel like that's the sweet spot. Stiff frame, some poly that does some work, and
Yep.
then just like let that thing rip. So can you unpack what the stiff frame means for those who may not be as technically savvy? Stiff frame means, and then what the activity with a polyester string and a stiff frame will actually allow a player who has technically sound strokes. Let me not.
Sure.
I don't suck, so it's important. It's important to call that out. But yeah, go ahead.
The stiff frame of things is allowing you as a ball striker, and I'm gonna use that phrase because you have to be a ball striker to appreciate a stiff frame. You are going to be able to hit the targets you want to hit with a stiffer frame. A little more flex in the frame, you're going to get a lot of heavy. You're going to get a lot of action on the ball. With a stiff frame, you'll get some spin, but not necessarily as heavy. The frame is not meant for heavy. The frame is meant for penetration. It's meant to uh, propel said ball to said direction as cleanly and efficiently as it can. Hence, why the frame doesn't have any give. The compound of that is when you have a polyester, which is a very dead slash unforgiving string bed, that's going to do the exact same thing. And if you have a Babolat Pure Drive, with a stiff string, buddy, you will be able to hit the daylights out of the ball, and you will hit it. You want to see corner, hit corner. I mean, it'll be right where you want to be. Flat serves in particular, one of my favorite players of all time, Andy Roddick, used to always play with the Pure Drive, and buddy, he could hit the daylights out of it. Serve in particular, right? I think we all know Andy's service is his serve speed precedes him. I mean, we don't nobody have to speak to the
Right.
to the prowess of the blue bab. When you start talking about how well you hit with, right? And as a coach, I look at that too and say, okay, if it was anybody but you, who I know how fast you are and how good you are with your strokes, I'd say, yeah, it's going to help you hit the ball big. Are you able to return that ball coming back that big? Right. And are you going to give up some heavy, which you might need for time? That's just me as a coach talking because you need to see the other side of it. Um, the blue bab is not a volleyer's forte racket, right?
Sure.
It's not the best racket to slice with. It's not the best one to play doubles with per se. Great for singles, great for bashing balls, great for hitting, right? Just have to understand what you're looking for. You're looking for more of a racket that's going to give you a little bit of shape. You need a racket that has a little bit more flex in the head. You need a racket that you probably need to bring that tension down quite a bit. You're going to need a racket that's going to play like you want to play, buy you a little bit of time, free power, right? And be able to, if I swing at 6 units, it's going to give me 8 units, right? And that's kind of what I'm looking for. A little spray every once in a while, but it's going to give me a lot more depth than I planned for. And if I can compound that with a string, a poly that doesn't give, but it's a little more of a trampoline, I get a little more flex. And now I can swing at 5 and get 8, right? And so that also helps me to that degree. What I find is people don't fully know what they need. They simply know what they like. And that's where we kind of run into problems is people have to kind of understand, okay, what do I need? This is what I do. It's what I do well. This is what I have trouble, right? And kind of marry those two uh, ketchup bottles, so to speak. I do well with this, and I like doing this. This is where I get into trouble. And then kind of figure out, can the racket be the solution, or is the racket kind of part of the problem? You know what I mean? And so, those are
Right.
the things you got to look at. Roddick himself, right, who had very good volleys, and back it could have always been a little cleaner, but had hit a big ball. Andy lived to die by serve, so it didn't matter. And anything else would not have given him the same serve speed. So at that point, it was a non-starter. But if you look at Nadal didn't necessarily need a bigger serve. While he was able to hit bigger targets, and he was able to flatten it out at his string was his secret sauce when he played with the pure arrow for all those years. So I just feel like a person has to know what they need. The hybrids to me are done. Unless you have such good hands, such good feel, you play a lot of doubles, you do a lot of slicing, you do a lot of volleying, you need that feel. To me, the hybrids are done. I'd say take a poly and go lower, or take a good synthetic and just go with a thicker gauge and play with the 15L or 16 gauge on the poly. Or heck, even gut actually has really good duration, really good lifespan, and then play with
Yeah.
that and go from there. But either way, you got to kind of figure out, what do I do? If I'm playing a lot, what am I playing a lot with? And there's nothing wrong with having different strings for different types of things. Heck, different times of the year, and shoot, for that matter, different bats for what you're doing. I've seen some club players that are decent that hit with a single stick, and they got a double stick. You know what I mean? They kind of go back and forth. Maybe it's an older version of the one and the newer version of the same one, and they just string them up a little differently when they're doing one of each. But to me, that's where you want to look at, is kind of marry it to your game a little more than it is my favorite stick and these make it work for everything, because that's
Yeah. Kind of going backwards. I wanted to kind of interject a little Andy Roddick thing. Once I was maybe I've told the story before on this podcast, but once I was teaching at a club some years ago, and Andy was there was a court between Andy and I. I was on court 4. He was on court 2, hitting with Ryan Harrison. And I remember this like it was yesterday because it was 4th of July. I'm going to sneak in a couple lessons and then go out for the rest of the day. And I remember being on the same side. Andy and I were on opposite sides, and he's hitting volleys against Ryan. I swear to God, he didn't hit a volley that didn't land within like 24 inches of the baseline. Like people talk about Andy Roddick's volleys, they don't give him enough respect. Like I feel like Andy Roddick does not get enough respect as a tennis player. He won a Grand Slam. He's number 1 in the world. But people go, oh, so many finals losses, yada, 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 yada. He was in the middle of like GOAT Central. Dude was so good.
And had 3, maybe 4 finals during GOAT Central. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That GOATs.
Yeah. Let's. So yeah, like people need to put some respect on that man's name. I know they do, but maybe not enough. The stiffness thing. The thing that I felt when I said I was hitting the ball, when I hit the ball so well, it was the ball was going where I wanted the ball to go. And you mentioned like it almost feels like the stiffer the racket, the more like a 2x4 it feels like, right? It's very responsive. Like what you do is what you're going to get.
Yep.
And I think when you start talking about if your strokes are not technically sound, right,
Yep.
you're looking for the racket to give you something
That's right.
extra.
That's right.
And I think the issue that I probably had with the Pure is the racket's giving me more than I need. It's
Yep.
not allowing me to do what I want to do. I have to almost do something different to
Yeah.
get what I want out of the racket because it's
Right.
also trying to do something.
Correct.
Like I remember case in point, like Logan hit a slice backhand cross court, and it like that thing kind of died right in the back left corner. I got low. I was like, I'm gonna try to whip this thing up the line with a little banana on it.
And you can do it.
Oh, I was shy. I was like, oh, that did exactly what I wanted it to do.
Yep.
Input in, output. So that was fun. I might mess around with some stiffer rackets in the next upcoming months. That might be the next evolution of my personal tennis game. But that is
The
what's going on
the
in
point
Alvin's tennis life right now.
the point that I would mention to the listeners and viewers is as we get older, as we change, right? As we get stronger, maybe you're a junior turning from 14 to 16. That's a huge difference in strength there.
Mm-hmm.
16 to 22, you come out of school. I mean, you're full grown now. You know what I mean? You got you're whole different person. Keep evolving the equipment to match your current needs. Clearly,
Current needs.
20 years ago, I was a lot stronger than Alvin. I was darn good shape and whatnot. And now I'm okay for a guy over 50, but I'm not in the same shape I was when I was 30. So I think it's something that you just can and don't turn your nose up at a racket you may not have ever played with because you didn't when you were such and such age or level, you didn't play with that level, wasn't you? You're not that same level anymore. You know what I mean? Come down, play the racket that fits you, play the string, play the tension. And a lot of us nowadays are hitting more, Alvin, like you are. Then we're not playing a ton of sets and tournaments anymore, so things are a lot different. You got to just play with what helps your current situation, not what it was 20 years ago. And I know tennis guys are notorious for playing with the same stick, same grip, same string, from back in the day, and the world of tennis technology as far as equipment has changed light years. You know what I mean in
Yeah,
terms of all the options out there. So that's my parting comment for the viewers and listeners out there.
absolutely. Well, we will go on no longer. That was fun. Thank you for indulging me, especially in the Serena talk. I'm Alvin. That's where I remember, like, and subscribe. Best of three. We are out.
Don't do it, Serena. Don't do it.